Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us to this webinar. We actually started recording a few minutes after the webinar started, so please welcome Beth Hansen from Perforce, explaining more about how she orchestrates buyer journeys on their websites.
Agile management and planning, and application and open source management. So we do a lot of different things in a lot of different industries, and each of our products speaks to a wide variety of buyer personas and people who are important along the journey, and each of them do need different messages. So that's kind of what led us to being here today, talking about Trend Demon and how we're using it to personalize to these different audiences, especially on some of our websites where multiple products live.
Yeah, I think this is really where we're so happy to have you, because you have this unique perspective from different brands with different objectives and different audiences. So it's like speaking to essentially 10 different companies, but having you here. And so I think also the audience would be excited to share questions about different types. So it's not just one type of customer and enterprise. It's not just product-led growth type of products, but really kind of a wide range. And I think the challenges that you're dealing with is multiple brands within brands, multiple audiences, and then how do you really navigate through that? So I think this is going to be an interesting part to kind of discuss and would love your inputs on.
Yeah. Like I said, we speak to a lot of different people. So these are just quick snapshots of some of the key industries that our solutions serve. We're in everything from game development studios to automobile companies to financial institutions. Our tools are used practically everywhere that technology is used today.
So if you're in DevOps, basically go to Perforce. There's something for everyone there in a wide range. So be sure to check it out, definitely. I think that the reason that we wanted to talk about orchestrating buyer journeys and transforming the website, and specifically talk about this now, this is just from a recent survey on Marketing Charts, just published in September, speaking about what are the top challenges. And I think the top one that really pop out is, after understanding the buyer's needs, is really engaging them at the right time, the right channels, and then creating those experiences. So many more marketers understand today that this is their big challenge for 2022, 23, in kind of bridging that gap. And I think even Beth, when we started, this was after you've just onboarded, I think 6 months, right? So there was already this understanding that you're looking to bring in this high quality, intentful traffic. And then comes the question, but what do we serve them, right? How do we keep them on track?
Right. Yes, exactly. We had started with 6 months, I think just a few months before we started with Trend Demon. So we were starting to see traffic coming in through our ABM efforts. We've also had some strong PPC and SEO efforts over the last few years too that have been bringing in a lot of traffic. And we definitely wanted to be able to better understand each type of audience we were getting to the site and make their journeys more impactful.
And I think, we're going to talk later about the stack that Perforce is using. And I think, and it's maybe strange to say this coming from a technology vendor, but technology is not the point, right? That's not the issue here. It's using the right tools when you have already a basic process in place. And then technology is really an accelerator. But if your basic process is not effective, making it more efficient will not help. Technology is here really to help you scale and make things more efficient. But that's after really you've solved kind of those basic parts of that machinery, right? Of, like you mentioned, bringing in this organic or high quality traffic and having the ability to convert them. But then the question is, what happens on the website? And what we're seeing from the data is about 18 to 25% of those opportunities are dropping because of this bad experience. And what we're seeing more and more is that you have buyer-led journeys today. Basically, buyers don't want to speak to sales. They don't want to, have a conversation. They want to understand independently. They don't want to also expose themselves, by submitting maybe emails earlier on in their journey. So that is something that we're seeing more and more, that potential buyers want to learn, they want to educate themselves And that means that the website needs to be able to support that kind of new approach. And I think it's interesting to see that it's not just, right, and you have the perspective of, for example, Glyphy, right, which is more developer-led, low touch, you have higher touch sales, but it's happening across the board, right? People want to learn themselves, right? They don't want to speak to anybody.
Yes, exactly. And we're definitely seeing that in our data and Trend Demon so far that, there's a lot of pages people will visit before they're going to convert on something. And often it's in multiple sessions too.
Yeah, and I think the other side of it is that the attention is dropping. So you have this compounding challenge of people wanting to explore themselves, but they're not able to sometimes really kind of dedicate a lot of time, and their attention span is dropping. If you're not able to capture that at those precious moments where you do have their attention, then sometimes that leads to that anonymous lost drop that you're not even seeing on the CRM, right? They're not on the marketing automation. They're not on the radar. But that's an opportunity that was lost. So I think we could talk about really moving from just capturing leads, kind of old school, just bring on the business cards or bring on the signups, but to really understanding how we're successful at capturing attention.
Mm-hmm.
But let's first talk about generally Perforce marketing, your activities. What are you doing, and what are kind of the main rocks there?
Yeah, so our main objectives in marketing is to raise awareness of our products. So that's where a lot of the SEO comes into play. Demand generation is a big part of what we do too. So we do want to get a lot of people to fill out the forms, but we know we got to also serve them the right content at the right time to make sure that they're ready for the form when they see it. We also do some sales enablement and partner enablement, as well as customer marketing. And to achieve these objectives, we have a variety of methods that we use, from SEO and PPC to email to events and press. There's a lot going on in our marketing department.
And I think this is this is a slide that I love. So yeah, so take us through, how do you, first of all, just in general, how you're looking at this, how you're looking at the technology stack. And, I'm sure we have in the audience, people from maybe smaller companies, earlier stage, not huge stacks. What would be the things that you would kind of suggest to start with, to look out for, and then maybe also talk about how you're orchestrating all of that?
Yeah, so our MarTech stack is large and growing, and it has been over the last few years. Our marketing tech team is quite large. We have a web marketing function that I'm part of, a web development function, and a marketing operations function. So we all kind of deal with different tools within this stack. I would say for smaller companies or those just kind of getting started with SEO and website personalization, probably the most important things are to make sure you have a good CMS such as Drupal or WordPress. Make sure you're starting with some SEO tools like Google Search Console, and then kind of growing from there and figuring out when does it make sense to add in some of the other technologies and tools such as ABM or chat. And we're very excited that we were able to add Trend Demon into our stack this year too, to help us mature now that we're getting tons of traffic and improve those journeys once our visitors get to our site.
Right. So I think the question is, at what point do you say, I need a tool for that? So what is the process that you're looking and you're saying, okay, there's this activity that I'm doing, and everything can be done either manually, it can be done kind of maybe in more manual ways or in simpler ways. But there comes probably a critical point where you're saying technology can really take us to the next level. Is there any kind of pattern that you're seeing that is that inflection point that drives that decision?
Yeah, I would say for us, it's all been about the data. A few years ago, it was about, we want to get more organic traffic to our website, so we need SEO tools. End of last year, early this year is when we kind of realized we're getting a lot of traffic to our site, but not necessarily all of it is converting. We need better tools to understand the journey and what's making for successful journeys, how we can help accelerate those journeys. And so that's what led us to decide it was time to get a tool like Trend Demon.
Okay, so yeah, so once there was this growth in visitors and there was this I think hunch maybe because it was still probably less
Hmm.
of data. Something is dropping, so let's get a better insight and then see how we can mitigate that activity. Awesome. So I think yeah. Now let's talk a little bit about really kind of again those points that led you to say, okay, we have a lot of organic. So you've had this initial investment in SEO that brought in a lot of traffic. And
Hmm.
that led you kind of this path to see how you can really make more out of that investment because you've already made that investment, right? It's already yielding visits. It's
Hmm.
now about how to capture that more effectively.
Yes, exactly. We knew we were accelerating organic traffic, but we weren't necessarily seeing that traffic converting, at least not in their initial organic sessions. And there was only so much we could pull together out of Google Analytics alone about different visitors and how often they returned to the site and what all of the pieces of content in their journeys were. So we really needed some more insights, and that's what we got when we added Trend Demon. And as I was saying before, Perforce is large and growing. We currently have over 15 product lines spread across 9 or more websites. And each of these products all have different markets that they're targeting. So we needed to be able to speak the right language to each market at the right stage of the journey that the person was in. So that's why we needed a solution like Trendemon to help us accelerate those journeys.
And I think this is also maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, but when you're seeing kind of the same problem across those different domains and product lines and areas, I think this is where your kind of intuition really is, okay, we need a solution that can help address that because it's kind
Mm-hmm.
of like this cross pain. This is a chronic pain. This is not a specific issue that one brand is dealing with, which I can maybe mitigate manually. But no, I have this horizontal problem that needs addressing, and I want a way to address it and to continue scaling.
Yes.
Um, and so now, let's talk a little bit about the the playbook that I think this is really what really was exciting to see how it's not just about adding tools and adding units and running experiments kind of on the blind, but having this thought through kind of process, which is really working from the back, working from the end game, and then having kind of see how the pieces lay out and then structuring it. So take us through kind of what led you to do this and what it is that you're doing. What is the playbook?
Yeah. Of course. We have been using Trendemon for about 6 months, and we've been fortunate to have spent that whole time working closely with Hillel and our CSM as we've rolled it out to different brands. Since we have so many teams and websites, we started small with our rollout and did around 2 brands and websites a month for the first few months to really get the team on board and running smoothly. So our general playbook was to start with the top of the funnel where we were getting the most traffic with the fewest conversions, which in the case of most of our sites is our blogs. Those are great for generating awareness, getting people to our sites initially, but doesn't have as high of conversion rates as other areas of our site. So we wanted to improve the journeys there first. And then we moved down the funnel to pages where people were showing some more intent. So targeting people who had been to some product pages, who had shown like a little more product level interest versus just information level interest, and provided them with campaigns that helped them progress from there. And then we moved into the bottom of the funnel where we're already capturing people who are interested in trying our products, reading our white papers, and wanted to make sure that we're offering them content that helps them continue on their journey because we do see a lot of them coming back to our sites and continuing to want to learn more. So trying to continue to be helpful and encourage them along the way to becoming a customer. So we've had a few different applications of this playbook across all of our brands, and I have some examples for each type of campaign that we have been starting up across our sites.
Yeah, so let's start from the top.
All right, so for one of our brands, Perfecto, one of the top of funnel campaigns we've seen working really well is an exit intent offer for an ebook. This is a gated asset on mobile automation testing. So this one is getting a lot of clicks from people who would otherwise leave the site. It's gotten a good number of downloads, and it's also encouraged people to complete other goals and progress further along their journeys. So it's not just they read the ebook and then leave. The ebook helps them move along to the next stage in their journey too.
I think the interesting opportunity here is that sometimes you're bringing in the right traffic, the right visitors, but it may not be the right creative that works, right? Because you never know what would really capture them. So
Right.
the fact that you get that second chance to get that really pre-vetted or even higher quality traffic, I'm even talking about not just organic, but even paid or ABM based,
Yeah.
gives you that ability to see how maybe that initial offer, if it hasn't been that engaging, you can then have that opportunity to follow through. Just in terms of metrics, I think that, basic units or CTRs, just to put benchmarks on it, we're usually seeing about 0.5% CTR in terms of non-optimized, non-personalized. When you're starting to add personalization, you're getting to about these numbers, almost 2%, so almost 4 times as much. Now, these numbers still can sound a bit low, but when you think about thousands of visitors that come and visit over time, this compounds into a lot more people getting into the process, getting into the pipeline and getting engaged. And those are the little tweaks that really make that machine finally work properly. So here's another example. This is a PLG brand, right?
Yep. So this is our product Gliffy, where for Gliffy, a free trial is a pretty top of funnel offer. A lot of our content is about how to create diagrams and different types of them, such as flow charts. So we launched this on our blogs as well, to try to get people to try their diagramming in Gliffy when they're coming to our site looking for information on making better diagrams. So we are seeing this one work quite well as well to get people to sign up for Gliffy who would have otherwise left our site, and give them a chance to try it themselves and consider whether it's the right solution for them.
And, Beth, we talked about, I think the cool thing here was that you really understood the target audience. So you're saying these people, they're not interested in downloading gated content. There's no long educational process. They want hands-on direct experience. Let's give it to them as quickly as possible. And really let's build a journey that's suited for them, right? That doesn't put a lot of barriers between them and exploring the product. And then we're going to talk about other examples where maybe it's a different kind of approach, where it's more about educating and serving kind of deeper content, thought leadership or reports. Right?
I'll just add also something that when Vishai also mentioned that, because it's personalized, what does that mean? It means, in other words, that we know basically we define different audiences. And top of funnel means that we can really easily define who is the top of funnel audience that we want to have a conversation with and show them the right things that they need to see. And the reason that these results are, as you can see, is because of that, because of the personalization impact, because we know and Beth know and the team what, top of funnel need to see start your free trial or download a specific ebook. And by creating these audiences is really designating the right messages for each audience. I think that's the power, again, not only about the single campaign, but how to move people in that funnel, in that flow. Use the audiences as part of the workflows just to get them to the next level each time. And that's also the core, the aspect, right, of our playbook.
And I think just to add again that this is being executed well, not just because of a technology piece. There is a deep understanding of the persona, and then what is the optimal or the recommended journey that we want to put them through. And then, you can employ different technologies to put that, but it starts really from a deeper understanding of how my target audience wants to engage. And then the testing part is much more focused. You're not just experimenting and exploring a wide range of scenarios. Your experiments are becoming much more targeted and so much more effective. And I think, again, talking about timing and trying to keep in terms of the broader message of what I think is being done here, is that once you have those understandings, then you're able to really, and here we're seeing some phenomenal also CTRs. This is from Akana, Beth?
Yep, this is from Akana, and this is an exit intent campaign we're running on some of our PPC pages. These are largely trial pages that people are coming in on via Google Ads, and then they're leaving without signing up for the trial. So it's kind of like a last chance to catch that traffic before it leaves the site and offer them something that's a little bit of a softer CTA, where they can get some more information first.
Middle of funnel.
Yeah, so for our middle of funnel, this is an example of one of the campaigns we're using to engage an audience that's already shown intent for one of our products, Helix Core. So our homepage on perforce.com is actually shared by multiple brands that live on that site. And we wanted to be able to have some embedded banners on that page that would offer relevant messages based on what content and what actions people have already taken on our website. So those who see this banner have already shown some interest in Helix Core from visiting blogs, from visiting the product page. And we have seen it have a pretty strong click-through rate and a good number of trial conversions and overall journeys accelerated who engaged in this embedded banner.
So essentially taking signals, right? Taking some signals that users have already given out during their top of funnel stage, and then feeding that into the website to continue that journey along that path to make sure you're not bringing them back to kind of stage one or step one, but really trying to figure out what they're interested in without them actually having to tell it to you literally, right? There was no actual conversation, them telling you what they want, but you were inferring that from the data, basically.
Right. Yeah, we were using our audiences to understand this is an audience who has an interest in this particular product.
Awesome.
All right, another middle of funnel campaign we've run. This is another successful exit intent on a page with a form on it. So this is running on our Akana trial page, so separate from our PPC pages, for those who are exiting, to get them to watch a demo first if they're not ready to try the product themselves. So this is definitely getting a really strong click-through rate, almost 21%. And getting some demo signups. It's a lower volume of audience since it's just those who hit the page and then try to exit. But we're really happy with how this one is working so far.
I think this is, we talked about it before about the fact that sometimes you have certain campaigns that are too targeted that, we're going to talk about some of the takeaways, not to steal the thunder, but we talked about some campaigns that were so targeted, they were too targeted.
Right.
But I think this is a great balance where you're at the optimal targeting, you're seeing this really amazing engagement rate, and it's not by chance, right? This is not a fluke. This is when you're able to provide that message at the right time, people are willing to engage. So people want that information. They want that content. They want to have that next step, but it has to be done at the right point at the journey, at the conversation.
Right. All right, and then moving into the bottom of the funnel, these are some campaigns that we're doing to people who've already signed up. So we want to help them move along in their journey because signing up for a trial isn't the last step. Hopefully, we want to keep them moving into our sales team's hands and help them become customers. So this campaign is running for people who've already signed up for our JRebel trial, offering them a kind of custom one-on-one demo with our experts. So we're seeing a really good click-through rate and sign-up rate on this as well. Again, lower volume because we're deeper in the funnel, but pretty strong intent audience.
Yeah, and I think that this is an example that even after you have the lead data, right? Even after they signed up, it doesn't mean that your website still has to have the same experience, right? In any interaction that you have with that audience, you want to be able to get them to the next stage. And sometimes you don't have any control, right? If they're going to come to your website or open an email or reach out to their CSM, sometimes that's not something that you can control, but you want to make sure that you're present at any one of those opportunities. Right? So it doesn't stop just at, I captured the lead, great. Now SDRs teams, go and pound them, but continue that approach.
Yes, exactly. You want to keep them progressing on their journey and not show them the same call to action that they already converted on. So helping them have a more seamless user experience. All right. This is, I think, my last example. We've also been doing some surveys across all of our brands. And one type of survey that's been working really well for us has been to people who have signed up for the trial on both Perfecto and Gliffy. So we've been using these surveys to just learn more about our audience by just simply asking them, how did you first hear about us? What are you interested in next? And this gives us more information to make better marketing decisions. It also gives us information we can then pass on to our sales teams that they might not have known otherwise.
Right, and I think this is what I really love about this ability of surveys. That it's so simple, it's so impactful that we're seeing more and more customers use it to really segment their audiences and be able to personalize without requiring kind of private information. So that's always the balance that you're trying to strike, right? And you want to be able to provide a better experience, but the other party is not always willing to give you everything, you know, that who they are, and this is a great way of kind of, and I think the CTRs are a great proof that people are really willing to engage with those units. I think it's something we're seeing in many companies, that double-digit CTR for surveys that help you then bucket your audience, even as they're landing, right? So it helps give you that better understanding of what they'd like to get.
Yeah, this has been one of the most powerful things in Trendemon to us, is just there are so many different ways we can create audiences to better understand how people are engaging with our site, and also to better offer their next steps and to personalize with campaigns. So being able to do this based on surveys, like we've run it on some blogs as well for the top of funnel to try to understand what people are interested in too, and have seen really good results with those as well.
So let's talk a little bit about, you know, what it's only been 6 months, but it feels like you've covered a lot of ground in those 6 months. So yeah, take us through some of the key learnings there.
Yeah, so we have definitely covered a lot. We've tried a lot across all of our different sites. We've definitely learned that not every campaign is going to get the same results. There are some things that work better for one brand than another brand. But we've also learned some general lessons along the way that I think can really apply to anyone who's interested in getting started with Trendemon. So our first lesson, if you want to go to the next slide, is to A/B test as much as possible. We've been really surprised by the results of some of the tests we've ran so far. The example we have on this slide is an A/B test we ran in Trendemon using a slider that comes in on the page with a little bit more text and information, which is the top one, versus a power bar, which is a slim bar that appears at the top of the screen pretty much instantly once you load the page, with much shorter copy. And we found that the power bar in this case was working better than the slider to get people to sign up for the webinar. So that was one of the surprising things we learned. We also noticed that product screenshots tended to beat general graphics on our campaigns as well. So our audience definitely wants to see what the product looks like, and that helps them decide to take the next step. So yeah, we've A/B tested a lot. We're continuing to A/B test a lot. You only learn when you test it against other things what works the best.
Right, and I think this is really the ability to execute a lot of those experiments at scale. Here, I just want to mention that we'll be releasing ability to even do this in an easier way, and to auto test and auto optimize different creatives, because we sometimes really we don't know what's going to work, right? We have our intuition, but many times things are going to be counterintuitive. And not only that, they may work differently for maybe even different devices, you know, so if, you know, a certain unit would work great for desktop and not for mobile. And again, based on different audiences, but that ability to do these fast experiments, I think is really critical. Awesome. Let's talk about lesson 2.
Yeah, so our second lesson was to keep it simple. As we referenced earlier, when we first got started with Trendemon, on a couple of our campaigns, we went a little too overboard on our targeting. We got a little bit too specific with our audiences for some of our campaigns, and that meant we got too few impressions, like 10 a month, which was not enough impressions to get actionable information off of. So we've learned we want to kind of find that balance between over-targeted and just the right amount of targeting and personalization to make sense at scale. The other thing we really wanted to keep simple is we tried some forms embedded within a Trendemon campaign for our webinar signups. However, because we needed at least 5 to 6 fields for our webinar signups to go into our marketing operations systems, it wasn't working well to convert people. So we kind of learned no one really wants to fill out more than 1 to 2 fields in a pop-up, that if we were going to need all of those fields, it would be best for us to send people to the landing page instead, where they might be more likely to fill them out.
This also relates to, we talked about the attention gap, right? And the attention shortage, that people just don't have time to do things and to read things that are too long. So again, keep it simple. I think keep it short also, right?
Yes, exactly.
All right.
All right, our final lesson was to use the insights we were getting from Trend Demon to adjust our overall marketing strategy. So it's not only informing the campaigns and personalizations we're running in Trend Demon, but it's helping us decide what to promote via other channels. So for instance, for one of our brands, Akana, we noticed that strategy content was appearing in our SQL journeys on the site. So this helped us decide when we were about to send an email to people who had visited our booth at an event that we wanted to promote some of our strategy content to help that audience also progress and engage and hopefully become SQLs as well. So the insights have been really incredible to see in Trend Demon too.
I think, I think this is this can also work the other way. So you're mentioning that, right? Just to maybe reiterate. So we're seeing here on the left the content items, and we're seeing here in Trend Demon how each piece of content was impacting bottom of funnel goals, and then that we could then see that a lot of those items have strategy in their titles, right? So we understand about how our content creation team could craft those messages. I think also, just looking at this, it could also work the other way, right? So if we understand that your potential buyers are passing through this content, this could also be used to segment people who are passing it as an indicator, as people who are maybe more likely to convert, right? And then building an audience who is kind of who are my next people to convert, and then being able to maybe give them a separate experience, a more more specific offers on that.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, cool. Great. So I think here we're talking about kind of the next level and what's next for us together. You want to talk a little bit about some of the integrations that we're now starting to release?
Yeah. So like we touched on earlier in our MarTech stack, we started using 6 Sense earlier this year for ABM on several of our brands. We also have been using Drift chatbots over the last few years and seeing a lot of success with those as well. So we were really excited when some new integrations came out from Trend Demon over the last few months that allowed us to set up Drift audiences based on people who've clicked into our playbooks, who have had their email captured. So we can start better understanding those audiences as well, and then also start providing them some personalizations too. And then 6 Sense audience, I think just came out, was it a week or 2 ago? So we were really excited to be able to create audiences based on our 6 Sense segments as well. So we can offer personalizations to people who we know already fit kind of our ideal customer profiles.
And I think, again, this relates, you mentioned that once you realize you have this data, it was a question of how to operationalize it. So just tying it back to kind of the general playbook, I think at the core of those integrations, what we're seeing and the way that we're approaching this is basically that you want to be able to create and segment your visitors in different ways, in more creative ways, in more intelligent ways. It could be based on 6 Sense segments. It could be based on Drift interactions. It could be based on marketing automation, CRM, behavior. Once you have that, right, you want to be able to, then the second challenge becomes the creative part, right? How do you generate a lot of those creatives that you can then use to guide people? So that's another part that needs to be automated and needs to be streamlined. And the final piece really is that connection between audiences and creatives. Have that testing, ongoing testing of different experiences to see what works, right? This is, I think, really what you've been doing and doing it pretty much in the same way, maybe just different segments and different approaches, but across 15 brands and product lines and so many different scenarios.
Yes, exactly. We have found being able to create audiences like this and then use them to create campaigns and better understand what's working, what's not working, has been so helpful. And it's just going to continue to get better and better the longer we're in Trendyman and the more audiences and customizations we can make.
Right. So just some interesting findings that our data team found, and thought it would be useful to share. Just some points about what we're seeing in the transitions and the transformations in the buyer's journey. So I think one thing that we're seeing more and more is that the dark journey, that anonymous part, is expanding. Right, that part where people are waiting really for the last moment possible before they raise their hand, that is getting longer. And as we mentioned the second time, their attention is getting shorter. So we're seeing almost 2.5 times longer of anonymous journeys. If a journey would take 2 weeks, now we're talking about twice as much. 5-6 weeks can those journeys can take place in comparison to 2020. And the other part of it is that your future buyers consume more content, 6 times more content than non-buyers. Now it works both ways. It's a blessing and a curse in some way, because on one hand, they want to consume more content. On the other hand, if you're not able to deliver them that high quality content to keep them on track, they're going to disengage. So there's an opportunity and a risk here through that. One other last metric that I didn't have time to make a slide for, but I think it's super interesting. CTRs on mobile are 4 times as much as on desktop. So in B2B websites, we're seeing about 25-30% of traffic coming in from mobile. So less people browse B2B websites on mobile than on desktop, but the engagement with units, with content there is higher. But, and that's the other last part, they consume less content. So they're more engaging, but they have less time and less patience for pages. So keep that in mind when you're thinking also about the device and the platform that your visitors are browsing your content with. Again, delivering those experiences is not just about knowing who that person is, but where are they also in terms of their devices. Awesome. Maybe some audience questions that we have, and I know we have just about 2 minutes, so try to keep it very brief. One question that we got. Halel, do you have the questions from the audience?
So there was one question about is it required to connect to Salesforce and to marketing automation to do this level of journey reporting? Again, it's not mandatory to connect it to your tech stack, but obviously if you do so, you will get the visibility and the visuals by connecting all the dots. So you'll see everything from the first touch all the way to opportunity level. And yes, you'll be able to define business goals from the website, from the marketing automation, such as MQL and so on, and all the way to opportunities.
By the way, Halel, we just, I think it's a great point, because here's an example of a new ability, a new visualization about the journey of an audience from paid channels down to closed ones. So the ability to have Salesforce would allow you to look at the revenue data at the closed one, but if you're not inclined to connect it, you can still see down to the lead level. And the idea is really to see that progression, not just who is becoming a deal, but also are you able to capture attention in the middle part, which, as we discussed at length in this webinar, is getting longer. So this part of attentive people who are not leads, this is where the opportunity really is to engage with them and to keep them moving forward.
I'll just also add to the question. The question was more specifically if there's any kind of specific hierarchy needed on Salesforce to support this. And the answer is no, nothing is needed on Salesforce, not on Salesforce, not on Marketo. So you don't need to do any preparations work on that side. So there's another question about a little bit about CTRs. The question is, which website personalization units are you seeing with the most engagement plus average CTR? That's a fantastic question. And it depends on two things. There's different verticals, obviously, also in the B2B world, and we're seeing the difference between the CTRs over there. And then there's always what is the call to action that can impact but generally I would say that the embedded units, Trendyman's embedded units, the sliders work fantastic in content areas. I wouldn't put on home pages and product pages too many pop-ups. We don't want to impact also the user experience, but just to show that to specific audiences. What will improve the CTRs is really not to show the same CTR all over to everybody, is really to personalize it. That will make their experience much, much better. Exit intent campaigns work fantastic on pages with high volume but low conversions, because these are pages that might work very well in terms of SEO, right? I'm sure that all of you have these type of content pages. So in these kind of cases, I would use, for example, exit intent campaigns. But we support all types of designs, embedded or not, with forms, with banners, with content recommendations, surveys, and more, to provide all the type of applications to improve the experience on the website.
Okay, and I think, Hala, just as you were speaking, I got some hard data. So there was some questions really about some CTR benchmarks. I think some people would really be interested in understanding kind of what CTRs they could expect from different types. So we have the basic units with 4 or 5% CTR. Beth showed us some figures there. There's really where we're usually seeing it. And this is as opposed to maybe under 1% CTR for non-personalized. I think that the cool things, we're seeing surveys really kind of over 5, 6, even double-digit CTRs. So surveys are really great at creating those engagements. And then lastly, content hubs, which essentially are destinations that are tailored to specific accounts or specific audiences. We're seeing a whopping 17% CTR there. And this is for content. And so I think the takeaway here is the more you can segment and target and then offer that content, the better that engagement is going to be. Again, and I think as Beth mentioned, hyper targeting sometimes is not effective because the ROI from the time you're spending to create that campaign and delivering that to the number of actual clicks probably doesn't make that worthwhile. So there's that balance. But essentially, the more audiences you can create, the better there. Cool.
Yeah, there's a few more questions. Sorry I can't answer all of them, but please feel free to reach out to us, and we'll be more than happy to provide all the answers for all your questions.
So with that, I just want to say a big thank you for Beth for taking the time to speaking with us and sharing with us and the audience some of the great work you guys are doing. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for joining.